Commentators Artosis and Nathanius.
Thank you just so much, In Control. That was some fantastic desk hosting. It is a great day. And I am just so excited for this TVT. I cannot wait. It's going to be a best of 5, guys. And it looks like our map pool is going to be Catalina, Foxtrot, Merry-Go-Round, Nimbus, and King Sejong Station. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that game and get this going. Nathanius, on Catalina, what would you say about these spots?
Well, the spawns definitely favor Jjakji, mostly because like, the weird thing is like you can kind of fly from the natural of MMA to Jjakji's main, but you also have that that big airspace. Although actually getting to that airspace from the left spawn is a bit trickier for Jjakji.
So would you say that it is who favored?
Oh, it's probably going to favor our red Terran player in the left spawn, representing Team My Insanity. Of course, he is Jjakji. I'm smooth.
That was good. You're smooth. You're getting good at this.
When you work with In Control, you have to.
Yeah, I know. That's true. You got to roll with the punches with that guy. But looking down here, Nathanius, did you know that olives are technically fruits?
You know, I think the people that worry about that stuff are probably also the same people that can't appreciate a fine steak, Artosis. But I'm sure you would also be argued that point by our blue Terran in the southeast, representing Team Acer MMA.
Wow, you're bulletproof right now.
Can't believe you tried to pull olives on me.
I did. I thought that was a good one too. I thought I'd be able to catch you off guard. You're like,
freeze up like a deer in the headlights, Artosis. Well, if there's one thing that I know about TVT, that thankfully we didn't miss anything dragging these introductions on, because everybody goes gas first on Catalina.
Indeed.
And yeah, both players have gone gas first, by the way, just to make sure we clarify that. So 3-minute factories, nothing super crazy.
Did you watch Marine King's group in Hot 6 Cup?
No, I was traveling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was too. I didn't get to see it yet. I was just wondering if he's still going for gasless expand.
I've actually heard he did some really weird stuff against Protoss, but I didn't catch. I wasn't sure actually any TVTs that he had played, but gasless is still pretty ballsy on these maps.
Yeah.
I mean, gasless expands. Forget the gas first builds. Like if you go even just barracks expand or CC first, Reaper openings can really mess you up still.
And in fact, we do see a Reaper from MMA here. Something we didn't see him do last time on this map against Pol. What do you think he's doing this for, just to kind of mix it up against Jjakji?
So this popped up quite a bit in the last couple of months. I'd say that the most prolific games that you're going to see are, I believe, Innovation busted the style out against Cure, and we saw Flash use it against Tasia at IEM Toronto. Like, it lends itself very easily to go into that starport with Banshee. A lot of players like 4GG will use this to go into mech-style builds, and I get a very Hellion Banshee or Hellion Raven mech-ish feel from this opening, mostly because you get that Reaper fast out to scout, but you don't have as many Marines. You're generally less likely to be aggressive with your forces on the ground. But in plainest terms, in case both these players completely prove me wrong and go bio, MMA just wants to be able to scout still, because if his opponent goes gas first, it's important to know if it's a Hellion drop or a Banshee.
Yeah. Well, I'd actually be pretty surprised if he did go for mech. MMA has always been very much a bio guy in this matchup, and especially on this map, I would say, like, I am one of the biggest proponents of going mech as often as possible, but I feel like this map, has so much drop area. It could be very difficult to truly pull that off against a great aggressive Terran like Jjakji or like MMA.
Really surprised he's actually able to catch that Hellion. A bit of a sloppy mistake from Jjakji. Just losing that. Oftentimes when you follow this gas first, like the Reaper comes into the main, and okay, killing that, definitely nice. I don't actually think he got to see that starport, which is, it's not the hugest deal, because seeing the Hellion already told him that he was playing against gas first, because there's no other way you'd have a single Hellion that early on. But yeah, I think MMA's setup, he does not have enough energy for a scan. He'll have one kind of around the time the Banshee gets to his base. But look at the way his units are spread out in the minimap. Like, he should be able to see anything that's coming towards his base from at least the south side of Jjakji.
And he is actually going for that Raven to go with his Vikings. So that was something that you were bringing up yesterday as well, as one of the possibilities with these gas first openings.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see what MMA does with this reactor as this barracks completes. If we're going to see him go into some Hellion production, it does look like it. So this is kind of what I was alluding to. Like, a few players really made great use of this build, and you can do a lot of very heavy Hellion pushes with this type of opening. 4GG actually wrecked both MMA and Pole at Dreamhack Stockholm with a very similar opening to this. The only weakness, of course, is right before that Raven comes out if a Banshee gets into your base. But Jjakji, he actually, important to note, never actually scouted the main base of MMA, so he's going totally the wrong direction.
Oh, man. That's actually really sad because he's already cloaked.
That's when his Hellion got caught, too.
Yeah.
Really, really important because now there's almost no way that this should do any damage at all.
Yeah, he's going to have 2 Vikings and he's going to have the Raven out. In fact, MMA seems to know exactly where this is coming in from. He's got his units sitting just perfectly to intercept it.
Yep, this is a nice spot to be in. As far as the expansions go, they're both timed out very similarly. So the difference as far as the follow-ups go, Jjakji is lining himself up to potentially go for a tank drop play, which is quite strong. And, you know, it was super popular a few months back, but you know, this weird thing happens when everybody dies to this tank drop is everybody starts trying to work on how to make their builds counter it or be able to deal with it. Having a lot of Hellions to catch the Marines as they drop out, having those Vikings to deny the drop, very important because Terrans are kind of getting a little bit better, and we really see a lot less of just the forward tank pushes that made Hellion builds bad in the first place. So second factory coming up from MMA will definitely signify he's going for that mech.
Yeah, it'd be pretty surprising if it was Bio with 2 factories, but you know, I'm happy to see him actually going for mech. How often do you actually see MMA go for this type of style?
Rarely. I haven't seen him do it in TVT in an awful long time, but he pulls out occasionally versus Zerg. He did it versus Solar in the Fragbite Masters, but for TVT, it's tricky because this still, like, you could say that this is mech, but MMA may be thinking down the line, I'm going to start Blue Flame as soon as I can afford to, and I'm going to do a really big Hellion push with my Vikings, like 4GG style, and not really play for the late game. But here comes that drop with the tanks and Marines I was discussing earlier. He has the Raven as well. He can drop auto turrets to help tank, and if you pull SCVs against this, you're going to have a bad time.
Indeed you are, and in fact, look at this. The 2 reactors going to be able to be targeted down so easily. He's starting to kill off some depots as well, and MMA is taking a lot of damage, but in the meantime, he is doing a Hellion drop over in Jjakji's base, trying to kill off some SCVs.
The problem is, I mean, Jjakji's production is capable of actually taking out those Hellions, and MMA has to bring absolutely everything over here to try to fight this off. The tanks are still alive, Medevac's still healing these Marines, and all the SCVs get pulled, but these auto turrets continuing to lay waste to this Terran force. The Vikings will land, and yeah, maybe you clean this up, but oh, this is, you know, this is not a fun place to be for MMA. Jjakji got a lot of damage in. He killed only 5 SCVs actually of Jjakji.
Well, 16 SCVs lost here for MMA, unfortunately. In the meantime, we do have Jjakji going into just regular bio-tank, it looks like. And I feel like when you get some nice damage on your opponent like that and you're going bio-tank, the player that's going mech is going to have a really hard time ever taking a third, ever moving out, even defending against the harassment that you're going to be putting on.
Yeah, this little move out from Jjakji's bit bold. The Hellion count was completely reset, but MMA still managed to squeeze out 7. Blue Flame is too far away to actually like kill all these Marines going up a ramp, but he actually doesn't. Does he caught a glimpse? Okay, he sees the tank, knows he needs to pull back, and MMA does have his own tanks coming out, so defending this is possible. There's no medevacs with this army just yet for Jjakji. He has a single medevac now making its way over there, but even that is a pretty slow process. With the air control that MMA has, he shouldn't, you know, he should actually be able to hold this off.
Yeah, I don't foresee him dying to this, but I love that Jjakji is moving around, seeing if he can get some damage done. You mentioned a lot about sieging up that main base production, but it looks like, oh my god, he's going to sneak up the ramp. MMA out of position. A great move by Jjakji.
Yeah, really nice play here from Jjakji to really just catch, as you said, that position on him. And yeah, the medevac might get picked up so he can try to move his tanks through the high ground, but you know, these Marines coming in here, killing that refinery, that delays all that gas you need to actually make a mech build work, and at the same time killing workers when MMA, you know, he already lost a significant number of them in this game.
Well, looks like he is going to go ahead and try to bust this for now. Scans on that high ground, kills one of the siege tanks. Very well done. In the meantime, the SCV's coming out, and this will get cleaned up, but once again, losing a few SCVs, and of course, that gas, the natural, slowed down significantly.
Only lost 3 workers in all of that, so not the worst thing ever. He's still down by 10 SCVs total. Jjakji's moving out with another push, and Stim only halfway done, so shouldn't might be able to break in with that, but he really just faked MMA out. He got him to move those tanks into a very unuseful position.
Yeah, he juked and jived there, really. He's like, oh, I'm going this way to tank your man. Oh, no, I'm not, silly guy.
Yeah, it was a great bait. I would rate probably 8 out of 8 on that one.
Great bait, 8 out of 8.
Yeah. And now Jjakji gets to take his third base behind this because as the bio player, you have that mobile force thanks to Stim and these medevacs. MMA is going for a counter drop play, but a drop is going to actually go inside the base of MMA. Once again, just really trying to abuse the positioning and the slow-moving army that Mech has.
Well, that is exactly what he's doing here. Picking up once again with his medevac, dropping on top of another siege tank, but actually loses the medevac before getting units out. A little bit of a mistake there by Jjakji for sure. Yeah,
well, now he's pushing into the natural again at the same time. The Hellions are going to land in the main base of Jjakji, but SCV's going to surround. Marauder picks it off, and Jjakji's actually kind of just manhandling him a little bit so far. MMA, you can't trade very effectively when you're playing mech with really small numbers of units like this. You need to build up a strong core of like 30, 40 supply to lock down against pushes, and Jjakji's just constantly hitting him left and right. And with the third base, he's have access to enough economy to just power out enough units, I think, to make it borderline impossible for MMA to ever even leave 2 bases if the game even went that long.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit rough here. 36 SCVs to 55. He's only got 3 siege tanks. MMA doesn't even have missile turrets here, so he's trying to just patrol around with 2 Vikings to stop drops. It's like, I don't know how you're supposed to hold on against anything. I don't know how you're supposed to get aggressive against anything. And we see, once again, a move in here from Jjakji.
Yep, another drop play, picking up his Marauders, keeping them well spread out, picking off tank after tank, and another one getting very low, does pick that off as well. And when you're playing mech, and you've only got 2 tanks at the 16-minute mark, you're not having a fun time. No. The production for Jjakji is still looking great. He's building tanks himself, he's getting his medevac count up, he's continuing to build Marauders, 4 Marauders at a time, and we all know how well those trade against tanks in small numbers. It's so much easier to just spread them out.
Yeah, you know, you can just kind of sacrifice units into siege tanks all game long. You can even trade it a little bit of a deficit against siege tanks because you're obviously going to have a better economy than the mech player. And really, the whole backbone of the army is those siege tanks. Until the mech player gets a lot of supply, I'm talking 140 plus, it's very hard for them to move out and do anything. And a big bunch of that has to actually be siege tanks.
Yeah, it's been a lot of aggressive drop play this game. Jjakji getting 2 more medevacs ready just north of the main base. The Vikings are here, though. Medevacs are quite low, so we'll be forced to drop these. And actually, it was pure Marauder, so no Marines to help clear those Vikings out. And MMA, if he wants to win this game, he's going to have to go through probably one of the slowest recoveries that we've seen in a TVT in StarCraft. And this map does not help that at all.
But mech is the type of unit composition where those recoveries can happen, so I don't know, maybe he slaps down a few drops in a row and Jjakji gets a little bit over-eager to end the game. That would be one way he could do it, but in the meantime, we do have Jjakji hitting into the natural once again. Oh my god, this is a huge amount of damage. SCVs being pulled, and so many of them will end up going down.
Yeah, even dropped forces onto the tanks on top of the ramp, denying any sort of protection. And there's just too many Marauders here. You're not going to be able to pull SCVs and break this. Landing the Vikings isn't going to do the trick for you. You have no economy in your natural. Your opponent's on 3 bases. This is it. GG. Jjakji takes game number 1 against MMA after, I mean, that's TVT, man. He built a huge advantage off of the way that his opening played out for him. The follow-up to that opening was equally as good, and MMA never got comfortable. And even the focus of those builds, the really quick blue flame when you play around with a lot of Hellions, he lost that tech lab so early on, he never even got blue flame in that whole 20-minute game.
Yeah, that's quite true. Well, MMA going for that mech composition he doesn't normally use, not quite being able to do it. I would say I really don't want to see him do that again, to be honest. I want to see him stay on more of the biocentric play that he's shown he's just so good at.
Yeah, it's a tough map for that, too, because he had the Vikings out. He had the Raven. You know, 3 Vikings is enough to kind of push medevacs away. You're only going to unload one of those medevacs if you do try to go through the Vikings, but Catalina just has so much airspace. You can actually just choose any direction you want to go through because none of them are really that bad.
Well, you know, he's taking a risk by doing that, trying to catch everything with those Vikings. Looks like our next map going to be Foxtrot Labs. What do you think about this map for MMA?
Oh, the spawns make this one really weird. TVT on this map gets pretty crazy. You have you know, there's the Reaper cliff that you can use at the beginning of the game for scouting, which makes some players try to go Reaper since you can usually get in. And against Gas first, picking off a Marine or an SCV, it's not impossible, but for the mid-game plays, the no ramp at the natural, if you spawn top left, bottom right, can put you in a spot where you can actually siege like the natural expansion's gases from behind and fight for positioning there. And this is also one of those maps where we've seen a lot of big doom drop style plays. Actually, I think back to Bomber versus MMA from BlizzCon on this map was all about the big drops.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually an insanely awesome game. I can remember watching that. Do you think there's any chance they try to end it really early, though? Because that game went very long. They were hitting maxes. They had multiple bases. But these games so far here at Dreamhack Winter have been extremely aggressive in TVT.
Yeah, it feels really weird to think about it like that. Like, was that game long? Like, it went 20 minutes. It's not the shortest game ever. But from like a Terran perspective of how far along the TVT itself evolved through the mid-game, late-game stage, that game never really left the early mid-game stage where you're putting pressure on the mech player and both players are fighting for that third.
Yeah.
Like, Jjakji got his third base, but you know, it's not that different from killing half the SCVs and just taking a third anyway, right? Like, there was no point where it was siege tank positioning versus spread out bio and catching drops here and there. It was big attack, you're pretty much dead, I'm gonna kill you now.
Yeah. All right, well, it looks like our game has started. Foxtrot Labs, map number 2, Jjakji leading 1-0. We're gonna go ahead and jump straight into that game and realize that it's bottom left against top right.
Yeah, so these are going to give us a little bit closer to the more normal spawns, but you still have to worry about things like those rocks at your natural for mid-game tank pushes can still be really tricky to deal with. But yeah, going into this, top right, not a bad position to be in, opening up 1-0 against the BlizzCon finalist, and looking pretty strong in this tournament. From Team My Insanity, he is Jjakji. He put up a pretty good fight this tournament so far. This guy, though, he's kind of the person that you expect to win when you look at how their results have been in the last few months.
Yeah, yeah.
It's from Team Acer, he is MMA.
He definitely has had the results in the past few months. He's been playing just out of his mind. It's been fantastic to see the resurgence of MMA. Such a, you know, early StarCraft 2 favorite. Well, definitely one of the first best Terrans in the world.
And been around for a very long time in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, he was one of the few people that could actually challenge MVP, the early game King of Wings. But Jjakji, you know, coming a lot later. A lot of people have called him the forgotten GSL champ. I certainly don't forget, though. It was a fantastic GSL. Like, when he won that GSL, I felt like he was levels above everyone else at the time. It was insane.
It was a while ago. That was even before my time in StarCraft 2. These builds, though, a little bit interesting. So we have a deviation from the gas first, and this map, it's actually not quite so bad for holding off. Like, you have that lip at the bottom of your base, but it's all about getting near the other Terran players' production. So the gas first, you're not as forced into it on this map as you would be on some others. It's a delayed gas from Jjakji. It's a Reaper opening from MMA. I don't think that there's anything too crazy. The only thing that gets really weird is if this Marine, for example, gets caught by a Reaper, or if MMA opens 2 Reaper, getting a reactor after the 2 Marines is the most common follow-up. So Jjakji could lose his Marines early on and things get a little bit weird, but that doesn't happen super often.
Yeah, it looks like he was just scouting out that natural. He's gone back over the ramp. The second Marine is there, so shouldn't happen. But we do have the double Reaper here from MMA. So definitely a very much different build here.
In a very weird way, like, there have been games that have ended because this first Reaper, like, takes half the health off of one Marine or, you know, takes a shot at each one. Yeah. The second Reaper shows up, they kill the first weakened Marine instantly, and then it's just, you know, 1v2, and you pull off whichever Reaper is low on health. This Marine positioning is kind of interesting, though. It's like normally you'd think you'd catch a Reaper, but actually he's just further away for defending.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Going to definitely lose this SCV, it looks like. Another SCV coming out to continue building, but Marine's going to come up and force this Reaper back for now.
Yeah, dealing with the Reaper when you go for this opening in TVT is actually quite problematic. Reapers are one of the reasons why Terrans will sometimes just get that factory and delay the reactor a little bit so that you can get a 3rd or 4th Marine out and just spread around your base. But, you know, he has taken a few shots and he's taken as many as he can. I think MMA recognizes that, you know, there's sometimes that chance, but the next 2 Marines come out in time, so you really shouldn't be able to get much more. However, I actually think maybe he was just trying to bait him down to the bottom side of his base so we could kill that SCV again.
Well, it doesn't quite kill it. It is getting a little bit low on health, but he damages the Marines a little bit more there. And doesn't look like he gets to do any of these huge game-swinging moves that you were talking about before that we can see in these mirror matchups.
Yeah, that's like the you really have to screw up to lose on that. Usually if your Marines go out on the map. But, you know, both of these builds still kind of line up the same way. They're going for starports. They both have their factories. They're both building 2 Hellions at a time. They just took different paths to getting there. And yeah, it kind of feels weird that like neither player either really has an advantage because one of them delayed when they took their gas and the other one just spent their gas on units that weren't tech early on. So I think it's still pretty even. Looks like it's going to be Banshee versus a Hellion drop. And you know, at this point, it just comes down to how you react, what you leave at home, walls, things like that.
Well, right now, MMA is going to go ahead and get Cloak as well with this. That could end up helping out quite a bit. Jjakji, on the other hand, just now getting his 2nd gas.
I'd really like to see Jjakji go for lift up all his Marines in the medevac that comes out, and then just move those over with all of his Hellions. And it's kind of like the build that MMA did to kill Pult yesterday, but it's just off 2 bases. And he's loading up the medevac. He'll have a few more Hellions than you normally would. And this is actually quite tricky to deal with because instead of those 8 Marines, he has the 2 Reapers. And in a head-to-head fight, Reapers kind of suck versus everything. Yeah,
that is true. They're okay against other Reapers or SCVs, I would say. Yeah.
Sometimes. And the Hellion production back home defends one of the Reapers. And I think for Jjakji, you know, the less units that are here, as the guy that wants to get aggressive, he's actually just going to elevator over this too. And as you can see, MMA, he's totally not expecting this.
Completely out of position at the moment. And this is going to be brutal. The Banshee's so far away, it's going to take a long time to get back in health.
Banshee's going on a trip. Terran's going to be like, come home, please, in the next minute or so as those Marines, Hellions instantly die. These forces come down the ramp, but these Marines, they can be really good.
Oh, he's going to split them a little bit more there, taking a lot of splash damage indeed, but some good Hellion micro here from Jjakji, taking out the Hellions and kills that last one as well. A huge attack from Jjakji.
Yeah, this is quite nice. The Banshee has arrived inside of Jjakji's base, though, as these Marines continue to pound away at the natural expansion, and it's tricky. So his next Banshee comes out. This can help defend, but you can just wait out the cloak or move away. The Banshee in Jjakji's base has only killed a single SCV so far. He's going to get him a few Marines, but that's it. He had missile turrets, he had a scan, and he had a Viking ready.
Well, that hurts quite a bit. Already a 12 supply lead here for Jjakji. MMA continuing to make these Cloak Banshees, though. About how much more damage do you think he needs to do to feel like he's ahead in this game?
He would have needed to get quite a bit more. The tricky part is that even though he's not relying on a Raven, and you can try to, you know, he has a limited number of scans, those missile turrets still going to give vision. Jjakji with this next drop is going to make things even more painful now. His 2 Hellions alone, he's going to have to bring all of his other forces back. It's not the worst thing that could have happened to him here, but he's also going to be able to continue to keep MMA from doing that damage like you just mentioned that he kind of needs to. He needs to find an opening. And this next Banshee coming in the right side, he has another one moving down the left. Like, he is looking for anything he could possibly get. Even delaying like the building barracks would be a pretty big win at this point.
Well, this Banshee going to come in, start picking off some SCVs. Still within vision range of this turret, but just outside of shooting range. So he will back up. Vikings trying to chase him down.
He's out of energy too, so.
Yeah. Well, they can get him, but the other Banshee is going towards the natural.
Yep, pulled him out of position a bit. This one's a little bit more well protected by the missile turret. You can probably just pick off the SCVs in the left mineral patch, so gets one dancing around, and Jjakji knows, okay, bring the Vikings back. And he'll go on the hunt for this one too. I don't quite think he has a scan ready, but things I'm really interested in, okay, no 3rd command center yet for Jjakji, and MMA has his about to finish up. So despite the early economic losses, this can help recover.
Definitely, and he's actually going mech as well. And, you know, this is like a much smaller map, a much harder map to drop on than, let's say, Catalina. So I feel like it's a better choice on this map. But I must admit, I am a bit surprised MMA continues to use the mech style when he's, you know, just so experienced with bio play.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting because, you know, and maybe one of the reasons why he busts it out is he just doesn't feel comfortable playing Marine tank versus Jjakji. He's the kind of guy that he's played in many series before. Kind of guy that you'll run into on ladder quite a bit. I think Jjakji is one of those players that actually plays on their main account on ladder. They don't only barcode, so you kind of know when you're going up against him. And these Hellions being active out on the map are nice for MMA. It's we can scout easily. I do like how fast he's getting the sensor tower though, and the other adjustment of getting that starport on a reactor much more quickly. Get Vikings out, prevent the drop play, because that's what killed you on the last map. This map is much easier to defend against those on.
It is the most important thing to do. If they're dropping in your main base, pulling you in different directions, they're going to pick off siege tanks so much easier, and that is really the lifeblood of the mech player. So I definitely do like the fact he's focusing heavily on that, adding some additional factories right now as well. I believe that's going to bring him up to 5 facts, right?
Yeah, he's doing this before even an armory too. So.
I have to say I really like that. We've seen this occasionally, like way in the past in mechs in TVT with mech builds, and it just allows you to boost your supply up a bit more and be a bit more robust against aggressive play.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to mech, like, usually the tank upgrades are most effective in just tank versus tank, because against bio, if you have enough tanks, the upgrades are much less important than just the splash damage. So he's going to try to push in on this left side here. He has another force on the right. Only one tank really covering this command center as MMA finds himself caught out of position, and even losing Vikings, definitely a tough loss to take so far. Jjakji actually just kind of toying with them at this point. If you can't take that third base as a mech player, you're kind of dead in the water.
Yeah, you really need to secure the third. One of the most important things in mech, but here we go. Jjakji stimming in and going to take out more siege tanks. MMA GGing, and I got to tell you, Nathanius, this is a little bit one-sided so far. Jjakji is tearing into mech like he normally does, whereas MMA is... Like, I'm not even sure why he had one siege tank out in front of his third. Like, that's not a good position. It has no cover. One siege tank beats nothing.
Yeah, that's true. It was very easy for him to just walk in and kill him.
Yeah.
Like, if you have, it's as a meching player. Yeah, as a meching player, it's risky to do that where you like, okay, obviously you're worried about being hit from multiple directions, but that's why you have a sensor tower. That's why you put units out on the map. That's why you place your Vikings in strategic positions, not on top of your army. But you want to keep those tanks together. That's when tanks are most effective.
Yeah, like one siege tank. That's the sound of one hand clapping. Okay, you need a whole.
He needs a buddy. He needs another hand.
You need an audience of siege tanks to make a lot of noise against incoming bioswarms. So, again, I have to say, I don't want to see MMA do mech anymore. As much as I love to see mech, I don't love to see it when it gets torn apart like this.
That's MMA is just like, I've seen him do mech builds, but it kind of seems like he went into this series like, I'm going to play mech versus Jjakji, and I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm not liking it so much. It's still important to note that the openings for both games, I think, significantly put Jjakji ahead.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, getting into the natural, because the way that a lot of those heavy Hellion openings in mech work is you just have so much that you have, 4GG, when you watch his games, it looks silly because they'll have something like 30-odd Hellions of blue flame, and the other guy's like pushing him. He's like, I've got a handful of Marauders, 10, 15 Marines, 2 tanks, and the Hellions just run up, splash everything, and Marines instantly die, and then like the Marauders and tanks can't get away. And he makes it look easy, but Jjakji's not, he's done enough damage and killed enough Hellions early on to prevent that from even being an option.
Is that my Insanity Kane? Oh my God!
Is that the Kane? I'm glad he's in the front row so we could get to see him.
Yeah. Well, you know, what you were saying about the 4GG style, I'm actually excited to see his TVT later because I've seen that, the Mass Hellion. I really like it because it harkens back to StarCraft 1 TVT where a lot of TVT was just about mass vulture early on because it's like, well, these are just faster and they build fast and they're cheap, right? So, like, they're really good in big numbers. So that's going to be pretty exciting to see if he can take out Pole. A lot of TVTs left in this tournament, I think.
For some weird reason, I'm kind of hoping that we get to see 4GG do that style because it's just so funny to watch. He played, like, I got to cast his game versus Pole at Dreamhack Stockholm, and it was just like, he's just making Hellions, and he landed his 5 Vikings, and he's just going to kill him. Like, he had 2 tanks. Like, no, it's like once you have enough Hellions, you could actually you could kill anything just about. And I learned the power of Hellions. Don't try it at home, though. It's surprisingly hard to pull off.
Indeed it is. You got to have a lot of practice for something like that. Really know when you have the right mass to actually engage something because it's like such a funny engagement with the directional splash, how to line that up correctly, the exact composition your opponent has, and how it's positioned amongst each other. Like, where's that splash going to go? Are the Marines lined up in such a way that they aren't going to, you know, just deal way too much damage to your Hellions and kill them off? But enough about 4GG. We'll be seeing him a little bit later on. Our next map, Merry-Go-Round. What do you think, Nathanius? Talk to me.
We should see both players swing back towards those gas first openings. Anything else? And I think you're seeing someone that's probably very confident. So maybe Jjakji's the one that says, okay, I think I can get away with another late gas style build, but still, you know, gas first is just kind of, this is like one of those maps that you do it on. Your main base is absolutely huge. If you open up with just Marines, you're usually too slow to actually handle any Hellion drops that come into your base. Even if you open up Raven, you're like, oh, I can drop an auto turret, and it covers 5% of your base. So he just goes somewhere else and doesn't fight your auto turret.
All right, well, we'll see what these guys want to open up with. The countdown has begun. Are we going to see a 3-0? I feel like we're going to see a 3-0.
TVT is so weird sometimes. It's really difficult to predict who comes out on top when it comes to these trades, but MMA's Banshee play just really hasn't been doing him any favors at all.
Certainly not. Well, here we go, Nathanius. Into the game we go.
Yeah, we're going to be on merry-go-round. And this map, man, all about that aggression in Terran versus Terran. Of course, this guy has been having a lot of success with that aggressive play in the bottom position, representing my insanity, the teammate of that handsome man Kane we just saw. He is Jjakji. And of course, this guy, a lot of people with high hopes for him coming into this tournament. Down 0-2, needs 3 maps in a row in this wild matchup to win. He is Acer's MMA.
All right. See how this one's going to go. MMA, the pressure is on. After finishing 2nd place in BlizzCon, I'm sure he really wants to pick up a big tournament win. And what is bigger than the Dreamhack Grand Finals? One of the most stacked turns of the year for sure.
It's interesting because when you look at, especially like how because they were talking about this earlier, like how players value tournaments, and all the other Dreamhacks before this, it's like, yeah, you can win, but if you get top 4, you qualify for the next one.
Yeah.
You know, all the WCS tournaments, you know, if you don't win, you still get enough points to put yourself in the running for BlizzCon. But Dreamhack Winter really is about the guts and the glory.
Yes.
It's about getting first place and getting the money, because this, this is it. This is the end. WCS season's over. This is, there's no points at hand for this. There's no qualifying for another tournament after this. You play Dreamhack Winter, and then that's it. Then Dreamhack Circuit starts up again next year. So these guys are fighting just for the glory, and I always think it's cool to consider. Well. Yeah, a lot of money. Always nice. Always nice to add in that
I would not mind a 30K take home. It's not too bad.
No, especially since I play Terran, I'd feel quite comfortable in that as well.
Well, taking a look, already the factory going up for MMA, just slightly slower for Jjakji. It looks like they have exactly the same build order so far, except Jjakji does decide to scout a little bit quicker.
Yeah, usually you don't scout when you go gas first unless you're worried about some sort of like weird counterplay. The only thing that scouting with a gas first build lets you do is take a couple of tiny risks, like if you want to get a fast reactor. And I think that MMA, because he saw an SCV scout, he's like, well, I'm going to get this quick reactor. And we saw again in this, actually, he's just going straight for the tech lab. So probably going to build the starport on top of this and just move it away. But yeah, going for a low unit count, basically. Like if you feel like you're not up against Reaper, you can just get your add-on super fast. There's no negative side to it.
Well, he is going to go ahead and build that starport right on top of the reactor, or rather the tech lab. No second gas for Jjakji quite yet.
Yeah, it looks like he just wants to open up straight with that, Marine, Hellion, perhaps Medevac elevator at the same time. I like how he's actually getting, okay, so he's, yeah. I was like looking at the way he was like delaying building a Marine just so he could queue up his next Hellion, which I thought was kind of cool. But it's tricky, because if the Banshee is at home when this drop hits, like the Banshee is super important for defending. And if the Banshee is halfway across the map, MMA just dies again. And this is kind of what, like when I say TVT is volatile, like it's things, like something as simple as the Banshee being like half the map away will cause you to lose. You lose the game. You just don't have anything at home to defend.
That's the funny thing about StarCraft 2 and the mirror matches within it. I think all 3 of them have things very much like that. It's like, oh, your mothership core was out of position. You now lose this PvP, in which if it was home, you win. Yeah, there are a lot of situations like that in these mirror matchups. They're really fall on a nice edge.
Queen out of position.
Yeah.
Say good game to my
look at that.
Lings.
The Lings came in. Ha 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 ha. You lose. It's quite unforgiving.
Yeah. That's I kind of like it though when you get to see at least the explosiveness in the mirror matchups, because oftentimes when you're playing, TVZ or PVZ, you can do things that will allow you to buy yourself into the mid game with a couple of concessions. There's not a lot you can do to safely get a natural in TVT. You're always vulnerable to these types of plays, and the Banshee halfway across the map drops hit in the main base. Absolutely no vision. MMA has no idea that this is coming, and he's going to move all of his Marines to the front to get this SCV, which allows Jjakji to just line them up.
Oh my God, all the Marines being taken out in a matter of seconds, and I don't know how he's going to hold on from here. Trying to cancel the cloak, doesn't quite get it, but he has so much defense at home that Banshee isn't going to do anything.
Yep, he has absolutely nothing.
That's it, GG.
Yeah, TVT, volatile, Kappa HD.
All right, well, that's it. Jjakji takes down MMA once again in this tournament. And with a 3-0 score,
ouch.
I mean, kind of felt him taking it, but 3-0? I don't think anyone could have expected that.
I mean, like I said, there's a reason I didn't want to predict this one, man. TVT can be nuts. Jjakji's build, much like the way that Polt did it, lay off the Banshee openings because they give you such little to stand on once it leaves your base. Like, those resources for Cloak are so much better spent on a reactor to get out Hellions or Marines defensively, and not having those basically gave 2 free wins in this series, in my opinion, to Jjakji.
Well, to be completely fair, MMA probably took a little bit of time off after BlizzCon. That was a big stage for him to get second place and all that. And I do want to say, I've been giving In Control a lot of crap, but he did say, well, I don't think MMA is actually going to get that far, really. And, round of 8, it's pretty good, but it's not as far as you would expect the second place at BlizzCon to get just a couple weeks later.
I think that's a fair point. Especially, when we go back to the thing where the Terrans are definitely enjoying, Terrans seem to be more consistent in other matchups than TVT lately. And, whether that's to Terran versus Terran being really difficult, or just the fact that, the matchups and currently the maps especially really favor these aggressive styles working against other races more consistently. It's given, it kind of not surprised that TVT would be where MMA dropped out early if he was going to lose to anybody before the top 4.
Well, I mean, In Control Moonglade, he is a Terran player, so he can only lose to a Terran player, right?
That seems to be the standard, right?
Yeah.
It seems to be the way of things these days. And yeah, pretty surprising he went 3-0 there. Obviously must have had a little bit of a holiday after BlizzCon, because he was in form for that, and completely different player this time around.
Another quick 3-0. Not a very competitive match. Very surprising. MMA, at least on paper, like we were saying, probably the favorite, but Jjakji had his number yesterday, beats him here really hard, and he moves on. So, again, more fat being trimmed from the tournament, it would seem. We had some super competitive
MMA being
matches.
fat is, that's some crazy fat to trim right there, man.
I guess. I guess. But
this must be a 0-calorie tournament.
It's getting lean and mean, Artosis. It's getting super lean and mean. Speaking of winners and trimming of fat, we're over to the very lean, the very mean, Jjakji and Smix.
Thank you very much, In Control. I'm here with Jjakji after his crazy 3-0 victory over MMA. Now, I know before this match we spoke, and you did seem very confident, but I have to say, were you surprised yourself at how easy this was for you?
I said he is easy, but I know he's very high TBT skill. So when I get score 2, I still a little bit nervous. So, but looks like easy game. Yeah.
Well, because you and MMA have played so often at so many different tournaments, I can't help but feel like there's a lot of mind games that go into preparing for a match like that. What is your preparation process like before this match?
그 모스크바 때는 그 그룹 스테이지에서 했던 거를 성원이 형이 좀 이용하는 느낌이었는데, 오늘은 이제 제가 어제 했던 걸 역으로 이용했거든요. 그래서 이렇게 좀 경기 내용이 일방적으로 끝나지 않았나 싶어요.
So at Moscow, I feel like MMA was really able to utilize what happened in the group stage and use it against me. But here, I tried to do the exact opposite. I tried to take what happened in the group stage and use it against him, and I think that's why it was such a convincing 3-0 victory for me. Now, next, Jjakji, you're going to be going up against the loser of Life and First. Obviously, Life is a very strong player, but First is also a really good player, doing really well at this tournament. Who do you personally think you're going to be faced, and what are your thoughts on that?
I want to play versus First because I know he scared me. So, and I scared Life, so I want First.
All right, then. So we'll see who you end up facing. But before then, we do have another match for you guys. So after this short break, stay tuned. It will be two really good friends, Tasia and Sun.